I'm Ice Cube, and this is my Ice Cubicle.
The year is 2035. Hugh Jackman's reanimated 97-year-old corpse is still playing Wolverine. The XIII kid just got cast as Spider-Man. And Teen Titans Go's last 150 seasons were entirely written by AI, and not a single person noticed the difference. But all of it makes me want to look back to where it all started, in 2025, in an age where every couple seconds another series is having its corpse desecrated, like a new Harry Potter reboot on HBO that simultaneously looks exactly the same, and like it's being put together by your Year 8 drama department. It can be hard not to feel like everyone is just completely running out of ideas, including me. I mean, I made this video like 7 times already. Like we saw this year with the new Superman, where they banished like 10 years of the most chopped cinematic universe of all time to the Shadow Realm so they could start over. Even if we've already had so many Batman reboots that I think I've seen more bullets being shot into his parents than I have affection for my own father. But like, especially this year, where like every streaming service has like 50 times more money than they do actually good ideas, and they're just like reviving whatever series they can throw money at. Where we're like constantly drowning in announcements about like a new Futurama, and Frasier, and Total Drama Island, and Gundam movie with Benson Boone. But, you know, if you want to be a nerd about it, technically those are revivals, not reboots, because they just pick up where like they last left off and pretend like they're not going to get cancelled and forgotten about in a single season. And you might be wondering, well, tiny sexy man on my screen, first of all, what's even the difference between those things? And also, are you single and can I go out with you? And I am so happy to try and answer that extremely unimportant question and completely ignore the second one. The definition of a remake that I just made up is when they take something that already exists and blow like 50 times more money on it, whereas a reboot is when they take something that people already like and change it to the point that they'll be complaining about it on Reddit for the next 25 years. Like that new Snow White that literally no one liked, that was like technically a remake, not a reboot. And again, how is that not just exactly the same thing? That's such a great question. Anyway, there are so many of these that have like come and gone without anyone even knowing they exist. Like, did you know there was a live action reboot on Netflix? Does anyone remember the RoboCop remake? Or the iCarly revival that ended on a massive cliffhanger because it was cancelled after like a couple seasons? Or a Spy Kids reboot that should have been cancelled before it was made? I know you might be surprised given how much my body is rapidly deteriorating, but I wasn't around in the 80s, okay? So I can only imagine how much easier it would have been to be able to sleep at night knowing that whenever there was a new Friday the 13th movie coming out, that they were gonna have to come up with some absolute bullshit every single time to bring Jason back after he gets murked at the end of every single movie. But now, like, Googling Halloween 2 would probably give you an aneurysm because the newest one is a sequel to the soft reboot Halloween, which is a sequel to Halloween that ignores Halloween 2 and Halloween 2. And even if you're like a normal person who isn't as concerned with arbitrary bullshit like continuity as you are wondering how it can be legal that popcorn costs $15 now, sometimes they literally just call the new one the exact same name as the thing it's rebooting purely to make your grandma's life worse whenever she goes to GameStop. Mortal Kombat rebooted itself with a 9th game called Mortal Kombat, which was then followed by Mortal Kombat 10 and 11, and then 1. If you couldn't tell by the way that I'm still clinging onto toy franchises for children despite approaching my mid-20s, I grew up on like a lot of shit that was designed to keep constantly changing, to make sure that I never stopped harassing my mum for access to a bank account to satiate my endless greed. Like, my ass was struggling to keep up with like a brand new Digimon and Ninja Turtles and Transformers show every single year. Like with Bionicle, right? Where they put out like a brand new squad of guys every year that sometimes would be like cooler versions of the same characters or new characters that look mildly different from the old guys, but they still gave you like a reason to give a shit about any of it by making it all follow the same extremely convoluted story, which was a really good idea until after about 10 years where you needed a fucking PhD to understand any of it. Ask like any Bionicle fan about like the start to finish lore of the series, and I promise you that you're going to be there for like a minimum of 13 hours, and it will be the greatest date of your entire life. But that meant to me that these guys weren't just toys, Mom. They were my boys that I had to regularly pay to hang out with me. And anyone that had these as a kid would have gone through the shared traumatic experience of finding out that midway through the line, Lego switched whatever plastic they were making them out of and accidentally gave them all a crippling bone disease. And so, after the best 10 years of my life, both Bionicle and hundreds of dollars of my parents' money faded away by the end of the 2000s, only to come back 5 years later with a complete reboot with even more expensive versions of the same characters again, in sets that you could actually make physical contact with without them immediately contracting leprosy. And the Bionicle reboot was fine. I mean, the problem was that old fans didn't like it because it wasn't the exact same thing as the thing that they used to like, and new kids didn't even care because they were way less interested in shit like Quake Beast as they were unsupervised access to Roblox and their mum's MasterCard. And like, I thought some of the sets were pretty cool, but like by that point I was already 13 and had moved on to more important things, like spending hours of my life on Reddit shit-talking the Ben 10 reboot. So, it got cancelled again after only a 2-year run, and now we're stuck with endless Ninjago reboots for the rest of eternity. What was also my shit as a kid, aside from the lethal amounts of Play-Doh I kept eating, was Bakugan. Even if I had like literally no idea how the game worked and just really enjoyed throwing them at my brother. And I did hear that they'd done like a Bakugan reboot a couple years ago where they gave Dan like these little tiny baby hands. But I didn't know that they'd just done a reboot of the reboot where they made my boy Drago look like someone's DeviantArt fetish commission. So, you know, I can't say I'm surprised to learn that it only lasted less than a year before it was sent to the big Baku farm in the sky. I mean, I'm sure we've all had like that one moment where we've like checked in on a show from our childhood and found out that they look like the mascot of an abstinence PSA now, like with fucking Robert the construction worker over here, which I know we all love to complain about despite us being like 20 years older than the people that are supposed to give a shit about a Backyardigans reboot. And yeah, obviously everyone's always going to say that they thought things were better when they were a kid, right? But the old Winx Club wasn't using ChatGPT to design its characters. That's all I'm saying, all right? One of the defining moments of my childhood was the day that they announced like this teaser image for some upcoming Sonic reboot called Sonic Boom that at the time felt like an incoming sign of the apocalypse, where they took like the successful and timeless designs of the Sonic cast and made them all about 10% longer and covered up those scandalous ankles. But you know, after looking at some of the concept art, yeah, it could have been worse. Now, Sonic Boom was never meant to, like, replace the main Sonic shit. It was always just sort of meant to be, like, this weird side thing they were doing at the same time. But when only one game in, it already broke the record for the most hated Sonic game of all time, which, trust me, is not an easy thing to do. Not even the hundreds of funny, out-of-context videos of the Cartoon Network show was enough to stop it from being cancelled and relegated to being the Sonic equivalent of your weird cousin that no one talks to.
What a swell adventure!
Hey!
Just think of all the hundreds more stories to be told using the same 8 characters and 4 locations. The possibilities are limitless.
But you know, as kids grow up, they're like a lot less into things like whimsy and color as they are watching Bumblebee urinate on a man's head. And when like the OG Batman movie in the 80s proved that you could take like this dorky ass guy in a funny suit running around with a 12-year-old and turn him into a vicious killer with an inability to rotate his head and still make millions of dollars. So then by the time we hit the 90s, the world entered like an industry-mandated emo phase, because now every reboot had to be dark and gritty. Superman just fucking killed that guy and has gigantic fucking titties now. Crash Bandicoot got inked the fuck out, and Shadow the Hedgehog was gunning people down in the streets.
Disgusting black creatures, get out of my sight.
Or like this year with the newest Batman reboot that's turned his entire rogues gallery into late-game Bloodborne bosses. In a world where, like, Bane's thigh is larger than Batman's entire body, so I guarantee you that by the end of this run, the only thing he's going to be saving is money with his employee discount at Walmart. There's an actual interview with the guy that made the gritty Batman vs. Superman reboot, where he said that he was trying to make his movie so dark that Batman could get prison raped. That's an actual thing he said. But you know, after so many years of Tom Cruise mummies and seeing Oscar winner Robert Downey Jr. stick his hands inside of a dragon's asshole, I feel like people got tired of constantly starting all over again. And now we've sort of just like gone back to the way it used to be, where everything just kind of has to like awkwardly connect to stuff that came out like 100 years ago. Like when Devil May Cry 4 was followed up by a reboot that literally nobody liked, so then for the next game they just went, what reboot? People hated the American Godzilla so much that Japan like bought the rights to it so they could have the real Godzilla murked in their next movie. And of course, who can forget the iconic moment in history when the announcement of an all-female Ghostbusters reboot got maybe the most normal response of all time.
4 women? Really? Why not 4 guys? Why not the return of the best Ghostbusters?
How can they bust ghosts when they should make me bust in my pants?
Ain't no bitches gonna hunt no ghosts.
Oh, no, okay.
And like, it didn't matter how much they tried not to piss off the endless horde of 45-year-olds with YouTube accounts by giving them like the same car and the same gear and putting Slimer in there. They even got Bill Murray back and then pushed him out a window. Because it turned out that when the movie came out, it wasn't bad because it had women in it. It was because it was the first comedy movie to not have a single funny joke in it.
Oh, I don't have a cat. It's a dog. His name's my cat.
Your dog's name is my cat?
And Mike Hat.
Your dog's name is Mike, last name Hat.
Well, his full name is Michael Hat.
So then for like the next attempt, they just acted like that never happened, picked up where they left off, and now everyone's happy. And like, I don't know if it's better that we now have this like inability to ever let go of anything and are dragging people from their nursing home to be in the same role for the next 90 years of their life. But I think for the most part, we as a society have like moved past the need for constant reboots, which is what I thought until I saw the only good thing to happen all year so far.
You are officially banned. Bam!
That was easy.
I knew I had to talk about the new War of the Worlds eventually. That shit was calling to me like the Green Goblin mask. I'm sure you already know everything about this movie by now because it came out like a month and a half ago at this point, and every much funnier YouTuber's already made a video about it. But the best way that I can describe it to you is that it's basically like Unfriended with aliens, but edited like it's an Instagram reel. The OG War of the Worlds started out as like a book from 1,000 years ago that got turned into a radio drama that was like so realistic for the time that it caused the entire country to actually freak the fuck out thinking they were being invaded by aliens. Got him.
Were you aware of terror at the time you were giving this role? Were you aware that there was no such thing as Martians?
And every time it gets rebooted, they like adapt it to suit whatever time period it's being made in. So this one actually does a pretty good job of reflecting what life is like at the moment by being absolute shit. Much like my life, the entirety of this movie takes place entirely on a computer screen. And honestly, I think the idea of like seeing an alien invasion from the point of view of some guy sitting on his ass for 2 hours isn't even the worst idea. Like, I think that actually could have been kind of cool in the right hands. The problem is that this movie is an hour and a half of Ice Cube doing his best Asmongold impression. This dude makes the same face during an alien invasion that I do when I watch dash cam footage.
Take your intergalactic asses back home. Back home.
Ice Cube plays like a deranged psychopath who works as surveillance for the government. He was using billion-dollar government equipment to spend all day harassing his children.
Hey.
A muffin? Really? A muffin. What are you thinking?
Jesus, Dad, how many times have we been
One
through
hard-boiled egg. All right, they're right next to the donuts.
The way that we're introduced to our heroic protagonist in this movie is him harassing his pregnant daughter over the camera he has in her fridge.
You haven't had any protein this week.
How do you know?
Let's just say me and your fridge is pretty tight.
Like, he has the power to do shit like hack into drones and commandeer random Teslas, and instead uses it to uninstall Minecraft off his son's computer.
Yo, did you delete my game?
You know you're wasting your time with that game.
Dad!
And this is before the aliens even get to Earth, by the way. He does all of this while, like, being in the middle of an active FBI raid because he can't focus on his job for 2 seconds without calling up Roderick from Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
It's you! It's you!
That's not me.
How could you, man?
Can you imagine being in a call with the actual president of the United States and then you see, like, your crisis guy in the corner go,
I had DHS terror analyst Will Radford prepare the threat report. Will, what are the high priority, most vulnerable sites?
yeah, one sec. Did you just order a fucking Big Mac? And there's no better sign of how well put together this all was than by looking at the time on his computer throughout the movie, because apparently the actual War of the Worlds only takes place over the course of like an hour. When the movie starts, it's 8 a.m. Then progressively gets to like 10 and 11:30 a.m. But then an hour and a half later, it ends at 10 a.m. again. Or as well, like in this scene, you can see where he's like remotely driving his daughter to the hospital. All of the other traffic on the road is just going the speed limit despite there being like 15 911s meant to be happening all around them. At the end of the movie, you can see Ice Cube filming himself with his phone on top of his phone, and they just left that in the final cut. But unlike all of the other War of the Worlds adaptations that have the aliens not look like they came from the last 15 minutes of Spy Kids 3D, in this one, they're here to literally eat the internet and steal the IP addresses of the entire military. And the way that they beat them in this movie is by uploading a virus onto a USB that Roderick has to fly to Ice Cube on an Amazon drone while dodging lasers from giant alien mech suits until they get swatted out of the air and they have to bribe a homeless man to risk his life for a $1,000 Amazon gift card before he realizes that you need an address to be able to order anything on there.
Touchdown. Touchdown. Touchdown.
Anyway, I think now that we're living in a world where everything is like shit and awful all of the time, it's kind of nice watching something like the new Superman that doesn't also make me feel like shit. We've moved on from gritty reboots and making every cartoon a shittier version of Teen Titans Go, so who knows what's going to come next for reboots. I just really, really hope that Ice Cube is in it. Thanks for watching, chat. See you next time.